Okay, so I almost burned my house down making chicken. And before you think, oh, she must have left the stove on or she forgot about something in the oven. No, that is not what I'm talking about. I am talking about the fact that I created a fireball in my kitchen that went from the stovetop all the way to the ceiling because I decided to put raw chicken breast into a pan of oil that was roughly the temperature of the sun. And why are we talking about this? Well, the reason I'm talking about this in the first place is the fact that I was only cooking because I thought I should, because that's what women do, right? I mean, after a long day of work, what they are dying to come home and do is cook. So that's what I was doing. Never mind the fact that I hate cooking. Never mind the fact that I am genuinely bad at it, but I can do it. So technically, I should, right? Because I can. Well, wrong. Very, very, very wrong. And that's what today's episode is all about. The most ridiculous lessons I've learned the hard way, all because I believed one very dumb thing. And that is, just because I can, I should. And what I now know is the phrase should actually be, just because I can doesn't mean I should. And that is what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Okay, before we start the full episode, I need to address this right here, which is my cute and precious assistant. Her name is Sugar. I have tried to keep her out of the show, and yet she still keeps coming back in. So we're just gonna have to deal with it. You and me. Sugar will be in and out. She will just be a part of it. So enjoy her just coming and going as she pleases. Clearly, she runs the household. So, okay. Now, let's dig into exactly this concept of just because you can doesn't mean you should, and exactly how I kind of learned the lessons of this one. So let me give you the full picture. It's a weeknight. I've had a very long day. I think it's around 7 p.m. and I'm still in work mode. My brain hasn't shut off from whatever problem that I was solving. I was still in it, working on it in my head, and I haven't mentally left the office yet. You know what I'm talking about. You're still kind of on your phone sending the email, but you're trying to transition into home life and figure out what's going on in the lay of the land, right? It's dinner time. Oh gosh, I better start doing something here because women cook. And so here we go. So I've got a pan on the stove. I put in the oil and I've heated it up, like way up. Like it's basically a war crime at this point. And then because I'm not thinking and because I'm just not great at cooking, and frankly, I'm still mentally drafting the email that I was working on just a few minutes earlier. I just put the chicken in, it's wet, room temperature, and I toss it right there into the oil. And what happened next? It was truly cinematic. I mean, I cannot even do it justice. It was a column of fire that shot up from that pan. I jump back immediately and am startled out of my work mode right into I have just caught my kitchen on fire mode. And looking at the fire that has gone from the pan to the ceiling, luckily the oil burns off rather quickly. Now I know that. So here I am standing in my kitchen, in my home, where I live, looking at this ball of fire. And in that moment, standing in the kitchen, I probably had the most clear, profound statement that I've ever had. And it is, I am not the chef in this family. And that is okay, right? Because I know that I can cook, minus this particular incident. But I mostly can do it. I just don't like it. I never have. And I really don't look forward to coming home and doing it. I don't find relaxing. I find it stressful. I find it annoying, right? Somewhere in my head, though, there was this script that said women cook. And, right, because you can, because you're physically there, you should do it. And that you're not I don't know, the best mom in the world and all the things that we try to be, the best wife, the best, partner, if you are not doing the cooking. And so therefore I cooked. But it was, again, something that I was terrible at. And there were roughly 10,000 better options than what I was going to be cooking anyway, right? Including delivery, having my partner cook, or just frankly eating cereal, because that is better than having me prepare something. But the fact of the matter is, after we get laughter out or get past the laughter of exactly the scenario that jolted me back into reality away from work, right? I realized that I wasn't exploring any of those other options. I was just in that mode of taking something that I had believed when I was young and told, hey, you can do this, and thus you should. I just took it for gospel and followed it and continued to follow it for many years. I didn't explore all of these other options. And that is what I want to tell you today, is that this whole concept of the fact that because you can do something, that you should be doing it, is really killing you when it comes to your happiness, your energy, right? How you feel depleted or fulfilled at the end of the day, whether you feel abundant or a sense of scarcity. All of these things are impacted by what you find to be obligations in your life. And so if cooking is one of those that was similar to my experience, right? If this sounds remotely familiar, then you realize that maybe there is another solution. Maybe, right, there is something else that you could do, even if it is only 50% of the time. Even if you're not swinging the pendulum, right, from 10, where you're cooking every day, to 0, where you never ever do it again. Maybe you're just swinging it over to 4, 5, and 6, and you're releasing yourself a little bit from a case of the shoulds. Then it will help, right? It will help you realize that, frankly, you have options. And when you feel like you have options, then you feel like you are free to make choices. When we feel like we're caged in and we can't make choices, but we have these obligations, that's when we are driving up anxiety. And that anxiety is going to drive up potentially fear or a sense of depression, all the things that we want to get rid of. And a lot of people don't realize that many of those feelings can very well come back to some simple things that we're repeating on a daily basis and that we're doing just because we feel like we should, or just because we feel like we can. And so thus it is our obligation. I am officially letting you off the hook in the same way that I have decided to let myself off the hook. And this takeaway from this funny story is just really simple. Find your solution and do not set yourself on fire. Literally, figuratively, obviously. But don't do that trying to do something that you hate just because you technically can. You have all the options out there in the world. And so even if it isn't cooking, what's something like that you are doing on a day-to-day basis that is giving you that same sense of obligation that maybe you dread, or that you really feel like, gosh, I'm not doing this because I thoroughly enjoy it. I'm doing it because I have a sense of obligation. And how can I lessen that feeling on myself? How can I reduce the amount of times I'm doing this so that I can free myself up and feel like I have the ability to make choices again? Because you do. Because just because you can doesn't mean you should. Okay. So story number 2 that kind of gets to the point of this is really very, very clear. And it's probably one that's going to hit home with you too, because it hits right back in here. And no, I am not talking your heart. I am not talking your soul. I am talking your ego. And so here's kind of what was going on in my life at this time. So I'm at a point in my business where things are going very well, and I am making good money. I've got a team of people supporting me, and we are working in a co-working space, which is working perfectly fine, right? But then I see it out of the corner of my eye as I'm walking past, and I see the big office. It's so beautiful, bright and shiny. It has a door that we can actually be in there and close and have conversations, and it just be us, and we don't have to rent a conference room, and it's amazing. And guess what? It is suddenly available, and it's beautiful. And guess what? I can afford it. And my brain did not say to me, do you really need this? My brain said, you've made it. Like, right? So I get this big, gorgeous office, and I'm picturing my team gathering there every day. It's creative energy, it's collaboration, we're writing on the whiteboard, the whole thing. I think I've dreamed about since I watched the movie montage of A Secret of My Success, like any corporate entity where they're doing all these things and working them out in the big conference room together. That's what I saw. And so I thought that is what a successful company looks like. I'm going to get to that pinnacle, except here's the thing. The reality was one of my team members was pregnant and didn't want to come in. And half of the other team members actually lived in other states. So on most days, it was just me and one other person sitting in this huge, expensive office that I was paying for because my ego told me it was the next step in my journey. It was everything that I had fantasized about. But at the end of the day, what I really learned is I was paying for a fantasy, not a business need. And the fantasy was, this is what a serious business owner does. She has an office. She has a space that people can visit. Never mind that no one needs to actually come visit because I was doing all of my work via Zoom. It's just the fact that I had a place to put my name on the door. That was such a big deal. And here's what I want you to hear. Everybody has their version in this situation, just like the cooking, of paying for the very big office when you really didn't need it. Maybe yours is the expensive website that you didn't actually need yet. Maybe it's the team you hired before you had enough work for them. Maybe it's the car or the apartment or the business cards or the massive photo shoot. Whatever it is, it's the thing you bought because you thought success was supposed to look a particular way. And spoiler alert, guess what? That thing that you paid for that was so expensive that you could, but don't actually know if you really should have, it's not going to make you happy. I promise. I know it sounds wild and crazy because we set up this idea of if this or when this, then that. When I get the office, then I'm going to feel successful. When I make this amount of money, then I will feel successful. And I sat in that beautiful office and felt the exact same way that I did when I worked at my kitchen table, honest to God. Except problem was I was several $1,000s poorer when I was sitting in that chair versus sitting at the chair in my home. So here's the thing. What I've learned and that I want to share with you through this story is, again, just because you can doesn't mean you should. But also, what I had in my mind was this idea that success would only come as a result of a feeling of reaching a benchmark that was external. And again, you're going to hear me say this in a million episodes because it's so critical. And that is that it is never going to be accomplished by that formula of when this, then that. When I get to a particular benchmark, when I have the car, the house, the apartment, right? The handbag, whatever it is for you, the office for me, then I will feel like I've actually made it. Here's the thing. You actually are going to only feel that sense of fulfillment and excitement and success when you choose to feel it. when you choose to embrace the feeling of fulfillment and success and excitement, and then you will feel it, period. You don't need to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars for that website. You don't need to pay thousands upon thousands for that big office with your name on it. None of those things are in fact going to make you successful. What does is you making the choice to see yourself as a success. Once you see yourself as a success, and you will not allow anything or anyone to take that away from you, then you will be successful. See, success is nothing more than a choice. It's a choice we make every single day to get up and face the things that make us feel, right, that our ego tells us are bad, like uncertainty and fear, that these things are bad. But success is getting up and facing them anyway and just continuing to do it, to show up and go to work and figure it out and walk through uncertain times and take the next step, the next right step that's in front of you. So please, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And in this instance too, make the choice to feel successful yourself, and don't waste the thousands upon thousands of dollars until you absolutely have to do it. And there better be a whole lot more good reasons than I just want money on the door. Okay, now let's go to our third example of me just really just shitting the bed. And it's something else that I wanted to share with you because I think it's really important, as you're getting older and, you're taking on responsibilities for things like houses on your own, that nobody told me these things. And so I feel my obligation to share them with you. And some of them are going to feel kind of random, but they are massive financial mistakes that I made that I feel an obligation to share with you. And so that is what this third story is about. It's about a massive financial commitment that I made that went terribly wrong. So this one is a real masterpiece, if you will, of bad decisions colliding together. And that is, I decided to renovate my backyard. And I'm not talking about like planting flowers and getting a new grill. I mean a full renovation, $40,000. And this was also, I believe, in 2007. So it was worth a lot more than it is today. And I want you to sit with that number for a second, because $40,000 is an absolute ton of money. And I decided to put it into a backyard. Not a wise decision. It was also in a house that I was not going to live in forever, and I knew that. But it was sure cool to have these things. And could I afford it? Yes. So because I could, I thought I should. So I should do it, obviously. Sallie, obviously, spend $40,000 on a tricked out backyard because you can. And so, yeah, go for it. You should. But here is where it goes from expensive to educational. See, I didn't vet the contractor. I didn't get references. I didn't have a proper contract in place. I just trusted him. And I trusted that age that people who, represented themselves as professionals, as I was doing at that time as a lawyer, that they were in fact professionals, because I assumed people do what they say they're going to do, which is a very nice way to go through life and also an extraordinarily expensive way to go through life. And here's the thing. I learned very quickly that my money did not go as far as I thought. See, here's what happened. Because I didn't have a contract in place, because I didn't vet him as thoroughly as I should have, things started to change. Things were not necessarily meeting my expectations. He, in fact, changed some of the materials out without telling me. He skimped on, frankly, basically everything. And the work was so bad that I'm pretty sure the next owners had to tear most of it down. The entire screen porch, the deck, all of it. So $40,000, no contract, no vetting, and a backyard that the next owner probably demolished. That was quite a lesson. It was quite the education. And here's the kicker. Backyard renovations don't even add value to your home. And I did not know that. I thought I was investing, but here I was decorating, and very, very, very expensively. So what I learned from this one is that trust is beautiful. Trust without a contract is insanity. And I don't want you to go through the same scenario, but I can tell you almost weekly, I talk to a female entrepreneur that says, yes, I have committed to that, but I don't have a contract with them, right? Whether that is a B2B client or a B2C, right? You're working with customers, doesn't matter. You need to have something in place that verifies the relationship between the two of you and creates a win-win relationship. And just because you want to formalize that does not mean that you are telling them you suddenly don't trust them. It does not mean that at all. In fact, what it means is both parties are in fact going to get out of this relationship exactly what they wanted. And that is because it is going to be negotiated at the time that you are beginning this relationship versus midway through it. So again, get it in writing, vet the person that you are working with, ask for references, and for the love of everything holy, Google, does a backyard renovation add value before you spend $40,000 on one? I could have bought a car. I could have invested that money. I could have set it on fire in my kitchen and it probably would have given me the same return on investment. So that was a really, really hard lesson to learn. But I really think it is an important one. Just because I could didn't mean that I should. And at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to protect ourselves. And huge financial mistakes can be made when we make the assumption that everybody is operating at the same high level of integrity. So instead, right, have a healthy level of doubt and protection in place so that you can ensure you don't make the same mistake I did. Okay, last one of ridiculous, stupid, idiotic things that I have done. And this one is less of a single story and more of a kind of pattern, if you will. A very expensive, very embarrassing pattern, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Here's the thing. I have created more products, more offers, more freebies, more opt-ins, and lead magnets than I could probably ever count. Like, if there were a graveyard for abandoned digital products, I would have my own wing available. The Sallie Ogden Memorial Hall of things that existed for 3 weeks and no one did anything with. That's what it would say. It's beautiful. And there are so many great pieces and of offers lying within that memorial. But here's what would happen. I would get, like, what's this pattern actually look like? I would get an idea, a great idea, and because I'm capable, see, going back to because I can, I thought I should, and because I'm capable, because I can build things and build offers out, I go and I build it. A new course, a new freebie, a new offer. I'd put it out into the world and then I'd wait. And if it didn't take off immediately, if the first week was quiet, if nobody signed up on day one, I'd decide it was a failure. Scrap it. There was a better thing to build. There was something else out there that served the needs of my customers better than what I just did. And I would scrap that and I would start building the next one. And forever, I just thought I was really good at pivoting. I just thought, oh, this is part of the evolution, is you just create and create and create. And then, right, you ditch and move on to the next thing. It was frankly like being a chef who cooks a meal, puts it on the table, and if nobody takes a bite in the first 30 seconds, then the chef throws the whole thing in the trash and starts making something new. Meanwhile, the people at the table are like, I was just about to eat that. I just needed a minute. And yet the chef has already ditched everything. So, and the irony, the absolute brutal irony is that I was confusing the uncomfortable beginning for failure. You know, that phase when you launch something and it's quiet, when you feel like you're shouting into the void. That's not failure. That's the starting line. Every single product goes through that. Every business goes through that. But I didn't know that. I thought if it didn't work right away, it was broken. So I'd scrap it and build a new one, which also wouldn't work right away because that's how beginnings work. And if I had taken even one of those products and just stuck with it, rode out the slow start, given it 6 months instead of 6 days, I'd probably be a lot farther along than I am right now. But I didn't, because I could build a new one. So I thought I should. Because I could, I thought I should do something different. And just because you can start over doesn't mean you should start over. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay. Stay in that discomfort. You know, in my book, Hitting Rock Middle, I really talk about the idea that there are these two circles. One is, it says it is your comfort zone, right? And then here is another circle up here in the visual. And there's an arrow to it, and it says, this is where the magic happens, right? Far outside your comfort zone. And that's what it's portraying. But I always felt like, yes, but the moment that you put your foot out of the comfort zone, you do not begin to feel the magic. You do not begin to feel magical whatsoever, in fact. You begin to feel extremely uncomfortable, the way that I felt when I was launching these offers or freebies or whatever it was, right? That didn't get an immediate applause or, right, external success feeling. But that's not what we should be expecting. And so I want you to know that from the get-go, that if you're in the process of launching something new, if you're in the process of doing something new, heck, I don't care if it's learning pickleball, it doesn't matter. At the beginning, you're going to kind of suck. And beginnings are hard. But as you begin to work your way through what I refer to as the discomfort zone, which is the zone that exists between these two things, between your comfort zone and where the magic happens, there is a long way that you have to be willing to traverse, right? You've got to walk all the way through this to get to where you ultimately want to go, that feeling of magic. And it will come as long as you don't stop walking, as long as you don't stop going and moving forward. And you're the only one that can turn around and run back to your comfort zone like I was doing. And I hope that this is just a great example to you that you can return back to the comfort zone, but you're going to get the same results you've gotten every single time, just like I did. And instead that you will do the harder thing, to stick with it and continue to walk through that discomfort all the way to the feeling of magic. Because let me tell you, oh man, when you get there to that point where there is magic, where you are fully aligned, doing the thing that you know that you were meant to do, and you are showing up fully and authentically as yourself, and you get to that place, it's peaceful. It's exciting. It's where you belong. So I hope that the next time you are faced with that level of discomfort, that you will try to do the bravest thing you can and stay in it. Stay in the discomfort and continue walking through it. And remember this sentiment that, right, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I know that you want to get different results than you have before. Okay, so what if we learned today? Very important. I should not cook. I did not need that office. I should have Googled whether the backyard adds home value before spending a small fortune on it. And I should have at least let one of my 600 products have more than a week before I declared them dead. But here's the thing that connects all of these. And I'm not going to get deep on you, I promise. Every single one of these stories happened because I believed that being able to do something meant I was supposed to do it. That capability and capacity equals obligation. And it doesn't. It doesn't. You're allowed to not do things you're capable of. You're allowed to not cook. You're allowed to not have the big office. You're allowed to say, I could, but I'm not going to. I'm going to set boundaries. And that's not lazy. That is not quitting. That's just smart. Something I clearly was not doing for large portions of my adult life. And it certainly was something that I wished I knew at 25. So if you're listening to this and you're laughing because you see yourself in any of these stories, good. I want you to laugh at this and then maybe go check if there's something in your life right now that you're doing just because you can, not because you want to, not because it makes sense or it makes you feel fulfilled, just because you thought you were supposed to. And maybe it's something that in fact distracts from your life because now you know you're not supposed to. You're just allowed to stop. All right, that's it for today. If this episode made you laugh or cringe or text someone and say, oh my God, you've got to listen to this, screenshot it and share it on your stories for me and tag the brim. I would be so grateful. And frankly, I want to hear your ridiculous lessons that you've learned along the way too. Seriously, DM me the dumbest thing that you ever did because you thought you should, and I will read every single one of them, and I will probably feel so much better about the chicken situation that we will keep between you and me. And then I will see you next week. And no, I will not be cooking. All right, bye. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of The Sallie Ogden Show. I will see you next time.